This is honestly one of the strangest stories that I think I've seen in quite a while. And I'm not even necessarily sure that I'm going to have like a definitive opinion on this. I almost want to put this out there with like just a few ideas and see how people react. We're talking about Black Myth Wukong once again, which I talked about the game yesterday on the channel. I did talk about some of the controversies surrounding the studio and some of the accusations that have been made about them, all sorts of stuff, but I was more interested in where are the PS5 review copies. This game comes out in a matter of a couple of days now, and obviously to not see any PlayStation 5 footage, but to have PC only footage and all the review copies be PC only review copies is kind of strange. You know, now it does seem like there's some footage that has emerged from this game that is the PlayStation 5 build. From the brief time that was shown within this footage, everything looked fine, but I still think that there's a lot of questions to be answered that will be answered very soon. But like I said, that was about the game. This is about kind of like the review process of the game and things that you can and can't talk about. And this is very muddy waters here. So let's just look at this together. So Jordan Midler from Video Games Chronicle put out a tweet, I should say, not necessarily a thing, talking about Black Myth Wukong things and things that you were allowed and not allowed to talk about within the review. So PSA, before people go mental about this review doc, at least in the UK, included absolutely nothing like this. It's pretty standard, if a bit strict, list of in-game content we can't mention. No journalist would agree to an embargo with an anti-feminism clause. JFC, especially not in 2024. But basically, there was this post that was made on Gaming Leaks and Rumors Reddit saying that Black Myth Wukong keys were sent to journalists with a request not to mention certain topics, such as feminism or opinions about China. Now, though the document was available online, it has been since removed, but you couldn't talk about quarantine, isolation, COVID-19. And, okay, so let's talk about this in and of itself. So Jordan is saying that this was not applicable to them. I say that because as we go along, the story kind of changes. But when you get a review copy of a game, there are different types of review copies. Once again, kind of lifting the veil of content creation and stuff like that. Speaking as a content creator, because here's where this gets murky as we go along as well, but I also have worked on the other side of video game stuff with the journalism side of things when I was a writer for Nintendo Enthusiast and editor-in-chief. So when you get a review copy, sometimes you get information with that where it's like, okay, you could talk about the game up until this point. Don't talk about this boss battle, etc., etc. It's usually based on stuff that is pertinent to the game itself, the story of the game, stuff like that. This isn't like a sponsored video in which if it's a sponsored video, you do usually have to send it in to the company so that they can approve it. And then, yes, you'll get things like, hey, don't talk about a war that's going on or something like that. You know, basic things that kind of do make sense. But once again, that is a sponsored video because that is indicative of, you know, what you are doing and signing an agreement with a company. Most of the time, you don't sign an agreement of things when you're talking about a video game review in and of itself. It just comes down to the stuff that you're allowed to talk about in terms of story, in terms of, you know, surprises that are in the game. It's all based on the game itself. So it seems like this was a whole fake situation. Or was it? Or was it? Because after Paul Tassi of Forbes, which, I mean, I did see Paul make some questionable tweets about me during my little fun time with IGN France and the whole Stellar Blade situation. Hi, Paul Tassi. How you doing, buddy? Hope you're doing well. Paul says, okay, I'm actually surprised here, but I have confirmed with a U.S. creator I trust that the Black Myth Wukong Guideline email is real. An extended conversation with an email tracing back to the company resulted in an actual code for the game. It's not some random Google Doc. So these were the do's and don'ts of your guideline that you get of things that you can and can't do, even though you don't have to submit this to the company. So really the only way that the company will ever know is if they watch the video. Do's: enjoy the game. Don'ts: do not insult other influencers or players. Do not use any offensive language or humor. That's weird, because who's decided as offensive? You know, I could be considered very offensive, but then there's some people who don't consider me offensive. Do not include politics, violence, nudity, feminist propaganda, fetishization, and other content that instigates negative discourse. Okay. Do not use trigger words such as quarantine, isolation, or COVID-19. Do not discuss any content related to China's game industry policies, opinions, news, or etc. Video games in 2024, folks. Okay. So this, like I said, I'm not even sure that I'm going to have like a definitive opinion on this, but this is very weird. Now, first and foremost, because I'm not under any of these embargoes, I can talk about whatever the hell I want. Something like bringing up China, because this is a Chinese game studio. I do want to look at it from a perspective of China is a different place than the United States. Now, before I even get into that, let me just say that this was a content creator. So maybe they have some sort of thing where it's like journalists and content creators had separate sorts of do's and don'ts of what they could talk about. I'll just leave that out there. That's up to you whether to think that's something that's viable or not, or something that's realistic or not. But this kind of goes back kind of to the Stellar Blade situation, where, you know, like that Rammstein song says, we're all living in America, America, this wonderbar. Like, you do have to realize, because gaming journalism, I mean, gaming creation is hitting many countries that we haven't really seen a lot of gaming creators come out of, a lot of bigger budget titles and stuff like that. They're getting into this piece of the pie. And a lot of these countries have very, very different views of things than, you know, your traditional Western companies or even some Japanese companies. Like, it's very different. If you go to China, it is very different than your town in the United States or your town in Canada or wherever you are. Even if you are in a different place that's not, you know, an American country. Like, if you go from Africa to China, from South America to China, no matter where you are, it's going to be different. And so because of that, because China has very strict things, you know, maybe this is something that is indeed true. It is a learning process. They have a different culture. They have different things that you're allowed to do and not allowed to do, and all of that sort of stuff. It's kind of like, you know, what we saw with Korea. What's socially acceptable. Socially acceptable things vary greatly from country to country because it's all based on their own thing. So on one hand, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can understand it. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, you know, shouldn't there be someone to be like, okay, do you want to read a review that talks about politics and stuff like that and randomly mentions Kamala and Hulk Hogan and Donald Trump and then the other Kamala, RIP, to the Ugandan giant? Like, no. Most people don't want to see that sort of stuff because, you know, it's pointless. But violence, like, there's violence in the game. Feminist propaganda. Why would I talk about feminist propaganda in the game? What is offensive words? Like, what trigger words? What are trigger words? Like, this is all very open to interpretation. And the fact that this is kind of video games in 2024, I don't know, man. This seems really weird. This seems really weird. And I don't know what my opinion on it is, because you want to respect other countries' beliefs. You don't have to agree with them. I'm not saying that. But you do have to understand that you don't live there. This is not your sort of thing. You can hope that things get better. You can, I guess, protest to hope that, I don't know why I did this, kind of like with the little marching sign. You can hope and protest that things get better in these countries and that things change to what you view is to be a positive thing. But at the same time, it's probably not going to do jack shit. So you're just wasting your time. But on the other hand, it's like when you leave China, when you go to a global audience, the global audience, once again, they don't live in China. They don't have your same sort of restrictions. So I don't know. I don't know. So this is where I throw it to you, because I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. It's so strange. It's just another sort of cog in the wheel of this, you know, this whole Black Myth Wukong situation. Do's and don'ts, cans and can'ts. Where are the game codes? Like, at the end of the day, really, I just care if the game is good or not. I don't care about the other stuff that's attached to it. But maybe I kind of do, because if I did get a review copy of this game and I'm supposed to do this shit without signing anything, without saying, okay, like, where do you draw the line with what you can say and what you can't say? What's offensive? To who? To you or to me? Because it's hard to offend, man. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Because this is weird, dude. This is weird. It almost kind of oversteps. Oh, I guess it does overstep like a standard embargo. Like, hey, don't talk about it till this time and don't spoil this part of the game. But like everything else, I don't know, that's pretty much fair game. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Are you still checking out Black Myth Wukong? Let me know that too. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.